All right, so you're here with us on the deep dive. And you know why you're here. You want to get smarter and faster on stuff that matters, but without getting bogged down. You want those aha moments, right? Where it all clicks. That's what we're aiming for today.
We're going deep on macrobolic nutrition based on Gerard Dente's book, the Macrobolic Diet Handbook. This is one you were really curious about.
Yeah, this one popped up and I thought, this isn't just some random diet. This book's laying out a whole nutrition and training program. And they're saying it was honed on pro athletes, people like Kurt Angle, the wrestler, Dave Hawk, the bodybuilder. Even their families are giving testimonials about muscle gains, fat loss. It's all built around this very specific ratio, 4-5-3, 5-20, carbs, protein, and fats.
So we're here to really take apart this macrobolic nutrition engine. What is it about this precise macronutrient split, and can the whole system really live up to the hype? You know, this better balanced performance nutrition thing, better results, all that.
Okay, well, let's get right into the heart of it then. That 4-5-3, 5-20-0 ratio. The book is adamant that this is not just calorie counting. It's about the specific hormonal metabolic responses this balance is supposed to create.
Absolutely. They call it the lean mass equation. The idea is that by hitting those numbers, 45% carbs, 35% protein, 20% fats, and the right kinds, you're basically setting up the perfect environment inside.
Now, I'm guessing some people listening are going to go, hold on, 45% carbs? Seriously? Especially if they've tried like low-carb diets or really high protein, that seems like a lot.
I think that's a fair point. And the book, it kind of anticipates that pushback. They're saying, look, this might go against the grain of some popular diets, but they're basing it on research and also those results, those athlete transformations they talk about. Their argument is basically that all calories are not created equal, especially when you're talking about how these macronutrients, play together within the body.
And that's where their idea of macrobolic momentum comes in, right? Like the body gets fine-tuned over time and just gets better and better at building muscle, burning fat.
Right. The idea is that consistent feeding with that precise nutrient mix, it's like tuning your body's engine.
Right.
And you get this snowball effect, that momentum towards your goals.
Okay, let's break it down, starting with the carbs, that 45%. So many people see carbs and they think instant weight gain. What's the book's counter-argument here?
It boils down to this. It's not about slashing carbs entirely, but about the source of those carbs. They're all about slow carbs, the low to moderate glycemic index kind.
So it's not cut carbs, it's choose wisely. Why are these slow carbs so important for energy, strength, building muscle?
Well, carbs are like your body's primary fuel. They get broken down into glucose, which powers everything. That glucose can be used right away or stored as glycogen in your muscles and liver. When you're working out hard, especially weight training, your body taps into those glycogen stores. And the book even cites research, this was in the Strength and Conditioning Journal, that basically diets dipping below 42% carbs, they just don't provide enough fuel for intense training like weightlifting, bodybuilding.
So you're not going to perform your best, could even stall your progress if you're not getting enough of the right carbs.
Exactly. And there's the added benefit of the protein sparing effect. Ample carb intake, full glycogen stores means your body's less likely to break down protein for energy. That means, protein from your food and, importantly, from your muscle tissue.
Which is huge if you're trying to build or maintain muscle mass.
Absolutely. The book points out that super low-carb diets might show quick fat loss early on, but they can trigger your body to actually break down muscle for fuel through a process called gluconeogenesis. And severely restricting carbs can mess with insulin production. Now, you don't want constant insulin spikes, but insulin does have an important anabolic role. Think of insulin as like the delivery truck that helps get nutrients, including those amino acids from protein, into muscle cells to help them grow.
So again, it's about balance, not deprivation. You mentioned glycemic index. Could you give us a quick explanation for anyone who's not familiar?
Sure. The glycemic index, or GI, is basically a ranking system for foods containing carbs. It's based on how fast and how much they raise your blood sugar after eating them. So high GI foods, generally 70 or above, are digested and absorbed quickly, leading to that quick blood sugar spike and insulin spike. The book says avoid these.
So the slow carbs they recommend are in that low to moderate GI range, below 70. What kinds of foods are we talking about here?
Right. And the book gets very specific, which I like. Like on the high GI naughty list, you've got white bread, bagels, most processed breakfast cereals like cornflakes, sugary drinks. But their good list, the low to moderate GI, slow carbs, that's where you find things like lentils, barley, oats, most fruits, apples, pears, even bananas if they're a little green, still whole grains like brown rice, whole wheat pasta, even skim milk.
Okay, so that's a pretty clear picture of what carbs they're emphasizing.
Right. And the book's explanation is that these slow carbs, they release their sugar gradually so your blood sugar stays stable. This in turn means stable insulin, which helps create a better hormonal environment, more glucagon, which helps burn fat, and less cortisol, which breaks down muscle.
Stable energy, fat burning, muscle protection, all good things. They also talk about fiber. Where does fiber fit into this whole carb picture?
Yeah, fiber, both soluble and insoluble, is non-negotiable in macrobolic nutrition. Insoluble fiber is great for digestion, but soluble fiber is the one that's really important for managing blood sugar and insulin. There's even a study they cite, this was in the New England Journal of Medicine, that basically showed a high-fiber diet led to better blood sugar control, less excess insulin production.
So it's not just the GI number, it's also considering how much fiber that carb source has.
Exactly. Soluble fiber, it's like a sponge, slows down sugar absorption, prevents those rapid spikes. Oats and barley, those are big in the MHP, macrobolic MRP, and they're excellent sources of this soluble fiber called beta-glucan. Beta-glucan's been shown to have a direct impact on lowering blood glucose and insulin.
All right, carbs, check. Let's move on to protein. That's 35% of the macrobolic equation. Important for muscle, obviously, but the book's saying it's even bigger than that.
Yeah, for sure. Protein gives you the amino acids, the building blocks, and those aren't just for building muscle, repairing tissue. They're also used to make hormones, enzymes, and for a strong immune system. The book stresses that when your body's short on protein, it's way harder to compensate compared to like a shortfall in carbs.
And they talk about catabolism, muscle breakdown.
Right.
Why is enough protein from good sources so crucial to avoid that?
Well, if your body's protein needs aren't met, it's gonna get those amino acids somewhere. So it starts breaking down your existing muscle tissue. This is catabolism, and it leads to muscle loss, less hormone production, even a weaker immune system. So consistent good protein is super important.
They also highlight these critical 5 amino acids. What's so special about these?
These are glutamine, arginine, leucine, isoleucine, and valine. Those last 3, they're often grouped as BCAAs. These 5 are critical because they play a big role in muscle growth, strength, and recovery after hard training. And the book points out that macrobolic nutrition supplements are designed to be high in these.
So now, the 35% protein, that might still seem low to some people who are, really into lifting heavy. But the book argues that it can be optimal. How does that work?
It's about how the whole system works together. Because you're getting enough carbs, the system is already protein sparing. The protein you eat is going mostly towards building and repairing muscle, not getting burned up for fuel. Plus, they say if you have a higher protein meal or shake before bed, your total daily intake could be up around 1.5 grams per pound of body weight for some people.
So the synergy with the other macros is what lets that seemingly moderate protein amount be effective. But they also say not to overdo it. They talk about protein overload syndrome. What's bad about eating too much protein?
Well, if you eat way too much protein, your body has to work overtime to process it, leading to a buildup of waste products, things like ammonia and urea, that can cause fatigue, and long-term, it can stress your kidneys. Some of that excess protein might even be converted to fat or glucose.
So more is not always better. Quality matters and timing. What does the book say about the best protein sources?
They're big on variety, eat different protein sources throughout the day so you're getting all the amino acids because different sources have different profiles, digest at different speeds. They even mention using things like biological value, BV, and PDCAAS. Those are ways to assess protein quality. For supplements, they're all about probolic protein that's in the MHP products.
What's the advantage of a blend like Probolic compared to, say, just whey protein?
So probolic is a blend of whey concentrate, soy isolate, and casein. Each of those digests at a different rate. Fast, medium, slow. Whey gives you that quick hit of aminos, soy is more sustained, and casein digests slowly for hours. This staggered release keeps your muscles fed, so to speak, with aminos and keeps you in a positive nitrogen balance. That's key to preventing muscle breakdown between meals.
And they're very specific about the timing of protein intake. Eat often, even have protein before bed.
Yeah, they recommend protein every 3 to 4 hours during the day, just a steady supply to keep things humming. And that nighttime protein is key. When you sleep, you're basically fasting, which can trigger muscle breakdown. So they say a slow digesting protein, like their Probolic SR, before bed can help prevent that. Might even boost growth hormone release since carbs are low at that time. They even suggest a shake might be easier to digest than a whole food meal right before bed.
Makes sense. And for food sources, what kind of proteins do they recommend?
They're all about lean options: beef, chicken and turkey breast, tuna, salmon, eggs. Interestingly, they're not fans of just egg whites. They say include the yolk in moderation to get those fats, some extra aminos, and lecithin. For supplements, again, they say look for blends with at least 2 types of protein for that full amino profile and sustained release.
Okay, protein covered. Now fats, that's the final 20% of the macrobolic ratio. Fats get a bad rap, but the book argues they're essential. Why?
Oh yeah, fats are super important. They're needed to absorb those fat-soluble vitamins. A, D, E, and K. They're crucial for making hormones. They help digestion. They even have roles in reducing inflammation, keeping your heart healthy. But, huge point here, the type of fat you eat matters a lot.
So the 20%, where should that be coming from?
They're saying get it from the natural fats that come in lean proteins, so your meats, poultry, fish, egg yolks, and also from foods that are loaded with essential fatty acids, so things like seeds, nuts, olive oil, flaxseed oil. Choose lean cuts of meat to keep saturated fat at a good level.
How do fats help with digestion and blood sugar in this macrobolic system?
Fats actually slow down the whole digestion process. That means nutrients are released into your bloodstream more gradually, which helps prevent those rapid blood sugar spikes. Slower digestion of carbs, A and D protein means a more sustained release of energy and amino acids.
Now, they're big fans of omega-3s. What are the main benefits there?
Omega-3s are great for insulin sensitivity. That ties in perfectly with the macrobolic focus on low GI carbs and balanced insulin. Better insulin sensitivity means better glycogen storage, and those amino acids get shuttled to your muscles more efficiently. On top of that, omega-3s are famous for being anti-inflammatory, and they might help with joint pain, which is good news for anyone training hard. They recommend fatty fish like salmon or taking omega-3 supplements.
And what about the hormonal role of fats? That's not something you hear about a lot in diet plans.
Well, fats, especially saturated fat but in moderation, are actually needed to make hormones, including testosterone. The book even says you need at least 20% of your calories from fat to maintain normal testosterone production. Fats also trigger the release of a hormone called CCK, which tells your brain you're full, helps you feel satisfied.
So fats help with hormones and appetite control. Interesting. But they do warn against low-carb diets that go overboard on saturated fats.
Right, they're saying some saturated fat is necessary, but too much, which can happen in some very low-carb approaches, has been linked to some not-so-good things. Increased risk of certain cancers, heart disease, and it can mess with your cholesterol levels.
All right, so that's a deep dive into the 4-5-3-5-20 ratio. Now, they have this thing called the Macrobolic Nutrition Anabolic Checklist Review in the book. What's that about?
It's basically a summary of the benefits you should be getting if you're doing macrobolic nutrition right. It's things like consistent energy from those carbs, controlled insulin release, which prevents fat storage and helps deliver nutrients to muscles, higher glucagon levels for fat burning, lower cortisol to protect muscle, a steady supply of amino acids for growth and repair, hormonal support from those good fats, and a maximized thermogenic effect, meaning your body's burning more calories just digesting food.
And they really hammer home the importance of frequent eating here.
Absolutely. They're recommending eating every 3 to 4 hours to keep your hormones and blood sugar stable and to maintain that nitrogen balance for muscle growth. They even suggest that if sticking to that schedule with whole foods is tough, you can use their macrobolic MRP or their bars.
What about the nighttime checklist? Does anything change there?
The focus shifts a little bit at night. The goal is to keep insulin levels low while you sleep because you're fasting, essentially while keeping nitrogen levels high. That means a meal that's higher in protein, lower in carbs. So the checklist highlights things like a steady supply of aminos, ideally from a slow digesting source, stable insulin, potentially elevated growth hormone because insulin is low, and continued fat burning.
And this consistent optimized state, day in and day out, leads to that macrobolic momentum effect, that snowball we talked about.
Exactly. It's like by consistently creating this anabolic environment, your body becomes more and more efficient at building muscle, shedding fat. And as you gain muscle, your calorie needs actually go up, which further feeds this positive cycle.
The book then gets into macrobolic nutrition supplements. They seem to argue that a lot of the meal replacement powders out there aren't great. Why is that?
Yeah, their main criticism is that a lot of MRPs use cheap, high glycemic carbs like maltodextrin, and their protein sources are often single source or lower quality to keep costs down. They're saying these ingredients aren't used as well by the body and aren't combined in the right ratios to get optimal results. And they claim that before their products, the Macrobolic MRP and Up Your Mass S, there just wasn't a supplement that really nailed that 4-5-3-5-2 use split with high-quality ingredients.
So what are some of the key ingredients in their MRP formulas?
Well, they're big on their slow-carb glycemics LGI, which uses low GI carbs from oats and barley. They say this provides steady energy, improves amino acid transport to muscles, keeps blood sugar stable, and creates that hormonal environment that's good for both burning fat and building muscle. They contrast this with the sugar rush you can get from the fillers and other MRPs. They even have a chart in the book comparing GIs. Their products are way lower than the typical MRP.
And what about the protein component?
That's their probolic anabolic protein matrix, which, as we discussed, is that blend of whey concentrate, soy isolate, and casein. Different digestion rates, quick and sustained aminos. And it's rich in those critical 5 amino acids, glutamine, arginine, and BCAAs. They have another chart, too, showing the amino acid profiles of their blend compared to single-source proteins, even beef.
They also mentioned a lipobolic EFA complex in their supplements. What's that for?
That's their essential fatty acid blend: flaxseed oil, borage oil, evening primrose oil, which has GLA, CLA, and MCTs. They say this blend helps reduce inflammation, supports healthy hormone function, provides energy, and helps your body absorb other nutrients better.
Then they go into ways to boost the macrobolic nutrition effects with other MHG supplements. Seems like they have a supplement for pretty much any goal.
Yeah, they talk about different strategies for bulking up, getting leaner, improving overall performance and health. Like, they mention Probolic SR for extended amino acid release, TRAC, their creatine and nitric oxide supplement, which uses time-release tech and this nitro-loading concept, effervescent glutamine, which has a special buffered delivery for better absorption, and TBOMB2, which is meant to optimize testosterone levels for men over 18 only, though.
They also touch on supplements for boosting HGH naturally, relieving joint pain, and even regulating insulin for faster fat loss. It's a very comprehensive system.
It is. They cover a lot of ground. Secretog 1 for HGH, Relieve for joints, ingredients like chromium and cortisolic acid for insulin control, fat burners like L-carnitine and CLA, a thermogenic aid called Takeoff, and they're big on the importance of a good multivitamin and antioxidant supplements, too.
Okay, so big question for anyone thinking about trying this.
Yeah.
How many calories do you actually need to be eating?
The book makes it clear that, yeah, the 4-5-3-5-20 ratio is the foundation, but your total calorie intake. That's personal. Depends on your goals, how active you are, your body composition. They do say that as you build muscle and your metabolism revs up, you'll probably need more calories over time.
And they have a tool to help figure that out.
Yeah, they tell people to go to their website, www.macrobolicnutrition.com, and they have this macrobolic nutrition calculator. It takes your info and helps you figure out your daily calorie and macro targets. The website also has recipes and info on stacking their supplements.
They even give a sample breakdown in the book for a 200-pound person who wants to lose fat and gain muscle. What are those numbers like?
So for a non-workout day, aiming for 2,400 calories, the sample shows about 244 grams of carbs, 229 grams of protein, and 56 grams of fat for daytime meals. Then the nighttime meal is skewed towards protein. On a workout day, 3,000 calories, it goes up to around 311 grams of carbs, 282 grams of protein, and 69 grams of fat during the day. Again, with a higher protein nighttime meal.
The book then goes even further with sample daily meal plans for both non-workout and workout days.
Right, it really lays out what a day of eating could look like. 6 meals throughout the day, specific foods, serving sizes, and all calorie and macro breakdowns. It shows how they integrate the macrobolic MRP into daytime meals and use probolic SR at night.
And for people who like to cook, there's a whole section of macrobolic recipes.
Yeah, there's a good variety. Macrobolic pancakes, omelet with oatmeal, chicken prawn pasta salad, a beef mass burger, lemon sole with broccoli, chicken teriyaki. Each recipe has the ingredients, quantities, macro breakdowns per serving, and instructions.
No, nutrition is just one side of the coin. They also have the macrobolic training guide. What's the exercise philosophy there?
The big idea is that macrobolic nutrition works best when you pair it with a resistance training program that's geared towards both building muscle and burning fat. They're very clear about the difference between aerobic exercise, like cardio, and anaerobic exercise, which is weight training. And they say weight training is king for long-term changes in body composition. It boosts your metabolism and builds lean mass. Cardio burns calories, but they caution against doing so much that it hinders muscle recovery.
They also talk about targeting specific types of muscle fibers.
Right. There are two main types, fast twitch and slow twitch. Fast twitch is for strength and size. Slow twitch is more for endurance. A program for muscle growth, hypertrophy, should focus on those fast twitch fibers. And they recommend using a variety of rep ranges, usually between 5 and 25 reps, all done to failure.
How does exercise play into the hormone balancing in this system?
Their goal with the training program is to maximize those anabolic hormones, testosterone and growth hormone, while minimizing cortisol, which is catabolic. They say to keep workouts to 60-90 minutes max for the best hormonal response.
So what are some of the key things they say to focus on when designing a muscle building program?
A lot of things, actually. How much weight you're lifting, which they tie to the rep ranges. Choosing the right exercises with a focus on compound movements that work multiple muscle groups. Proper form, both the lifting and the lowering phase. How long you rest between sets, they say 60 to 120 seconds. The overall length of your workouts, rest between workouts, and the use of workout cycles or periodization, where you might alternate between heavier lifting with low reps and lighter lifting with higher reps.
They even have a specific program, the Macrobolic Muscle Blasting Training Program.
It's a 14-day program, split into two 7-day cycles. Cycle phase 1 is heavier weights, lower reps, 5 to 10, focus on explosive lifting and controlled lowering. Cycle phase 2 is more explosive movements with variations, where some sets are all about the lifting phase, concentric, or the lowering phase, eccentric. They give example exercises for each muscle group, and they specify rest intervals for each phase. There's a key explaining the different movement types, and general guidelines on warming up and doing some optional cardio on your off days.
And to wrap it up, the book circles back to those testimonials from athletes like Mike Morris, Kurt Angle, and John Anderson.
Yeah, they use these real-world examples to show the kinds of results you can get when you combine macrobolic nutrition with a good training program.
So to sum up our deep dive, it seems like macrobolic nutrition, with that very specific 4-5-3-5-20 ratio of carbs, protein, and fats, all from high-quality sources, plus the timing aspect, offers a complete approach to building muscle and losing fat, especially if you pair it with a smart resistance training program.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And what's really interesting is the emphasis on carbs, but the right carbs, those slow digesting, low GI options, and the use of protein blends designed for sustained release, and that specific recommendation for nighttime protein to prevent muscle breakdown during sleep.
If you're intrigued and want to explore more, the book tells you to check out their website, www.macrobolicnutrition.com. They have their Macrobolic Nutrition Calculator, more recipes, info on their supplements.
Definitely a good resource for anyone who wants to dig deeper.
So as you think about this macrobolic nutrition approach, consider this. Could those principles of balancing your macros in that specific way and understanding how they impact your hormones, could that be a game changer for your diet and fitness? Could this be the thing that helps you get better, more lasting results? Maybe exploring that idea of macrobolic momentum is your next step. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.